Let's take a look at a question related to income tax. Santa Claus Limited made 4 quarterly payments of $3,200 each to the CRA during 2020 as installment payments on its estimated 2020 corporate tax liability. At year end, Santa Claus Limited's controller completed the company's 2020 tax return, which showed income tax owing of $20,000 on its 2020 income. Prepare the summary entry for the quarterly tax installments and the year-end adjusting entry to recognize the 2020 income tax. And then we're also asked to identify any year-end statement of financial position amount that is related to income tax and indicate that it is classified. All right, so we know we made 4 quarterly installments of $3,200 each. So let's start with our installment entry. So we've got installments. So we're going to go debit, income tax expense, because we're making sure that our income statement is starting to provide for this income statement expense, for the tax expense, even though we know it's not due until after the end of the year. And we're going to have cash, because when we make an installment payment, we make it in cash. Normally we do that online. So here's our $12,800, and that's simply $3,200 times 4. So those are the installments that we made. The next entry that we're asked to do is how we would adjust it, knowing that at the end of the year, we believe we owe $20,000 in income tax. So first we would check, so year end to tax expense. So we know that our tax expense at the end of the year should be $20,000. And we've only recorded, to date, we've recorded this $12,800. So that means we need to top up our tax expense by $7,200. So we're simply going to have the exact same entry for that top up. So we're going to have debit income tax expense and credit cash. Actually, credit income tax payable, my mistake, because that's just an accrual now. We're not actually making a remittance payment for that. So $7,200 and $7,200. So at year end, we would have go through our P&L, $7,200 plus $12,800. So then we would have provided for that $20,000 of income tax that we believe we owe for 2020. So how would this be presented on the statement of financial position? Well, we would simply have how it would be classified, any year-end statement of financial position amount that is related to income tax and interesting. Okay, so on our balance sheet, so on our income statement, we would have income tax expense of $20,000. But this is specifically asking about the statement of financial position, so on our balance sheet. So all we would have on our balance sheet is this income tax payable. I should say payable. So we would simply have a current liability for income tax payable of $7,200. All right, let's see what else we've got. So there's another part to this question that's going to make it a little bit more tricky. Let's see what that looks like. Let me just change my pen so we can distinguish what we're doing here. So part B is going to say, assume that instead the tax return indicated 2020 income tax of $10,200. Prepare the year-end adjusting entry to recognize the income tax, and how would that look on the statement of financial position? So remember that we already have an installment here where we've put $12,800 through the P&L. And now we're saying that rather than thinking that our tax is going to be $20,000, as in the first entry here, which was our $20,000, now we're saying we think the tax is actually only going to be $10,200. So we actually over provided for tax in this scenario. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, well, we recognized to date, we have installments of $12,800. But we think the tax is actually only going to be $10,200. So the difference is going to be $2,600. we had over provided. So what we're going to want to do is say, don't forget, these were installment payments, so we made them in cash. So now we're going to get this amount of our installments back. So we're actually going to have debit income tax receivable for 20. And we're going to have credit income tax expense. So we're decreasing the income tax expense that we had recognized related to those installments on our income statement. And what's that going to look like on the statement of financial position? Well, in this case, we're going to have current asset of income tax receivable of $2,600.